Today we're going to talk about building up momentum as a startup founder and what are your main learnings from this. So maybe for the rest of the audience, who is Guy? Who is Mobietrain? If you can briefly start with this.
Super. Thank you for having me, Cedric. Who's Guy? I'm having a background in customer experience research. So I've been in the past for a mystery shopping company where we had a lot of retailers, a lot of hospitality groups where we try to make their customer experience better every day. And from that background, that I saw that at a certain point in time, that a lot of frontline employees don't have the right knowledge, don't get the right information to really shine in their job. And that's how the idea from Mobietrain came at life. My background has always been actually in B2B sales. So I worked for a long time in the mystery shopping. But prior to that, I started at Coca-Cola. I worked for consulting companies, for the Chamber of Commerce, but always in a more service-oriented B2B atmosphere.
Okay.
And then, launching my own venture 2015. But the real start, let's say, was 2019.
Okay.
And maybe from a personal level, I'm 42, married, lovely daughter of 12, and love to do sports and good food.
Great. Sounds great. The good Burgundic life and hardworking.
Yes. Yes.
So you said the real start is at 2018. What I would like to focus down on, after your first opportunities, the deals that you closed, you realized you had a product market fit. So at that moment, when you had that market fit, what did you do?
Yeah, first of all, maybe it's there are 2 points, I think, because often you can say you have a product market fit, but when do you have really a product market fit to scale or might be two different things. So first product market fit we had is that we started with a micro-learning platform specifically geared to frontline employees. So from the moment we got companies like Vans, Timberland, a few other retailers on board, then you could say like, look, you have a product market fit, which is true. And we started to grow from there. But then at a certain point in time, which I think is typical for a startup, you get your first 100K in ARR, but you want to grow to 1 million and you want to do it fast. So you think, okay, now I have a product market fit, but maybe you don't understand really why it is. And you say, okay, every frontline employee where we can help, let's go after that. So we got a lot of different clients on board from a lot of different industries, where the sales at that point in time mainly came from myself and later on also from Jasper, our commercial director. So for us, it was quite okay because I have experience with multiple industries. I have a lot of sales experience before. So not that difficult to sell today to a logistic company, tomorrow to a retail company, day after to a restaurant business, fine. But what we have seen over time is that works really good. But then you get it much more difficult when you start to build your sales team. And that was for us the second point, which happened, let's say, the end of last year. We invested a lot in having many new salespeople on board in many different countries. And then suddenly you see to educate them, to help them achieve their targets. If you do that to a lot of different industries with not that much focus, then it's a very difficult story. And that's where we took the moment to redefine what is really now our product market fit and really put way more focus on it and go after only a few segments. Not because we believe we cannot be successful in other segments or those clients are not happy, but just because of the fact that to scale, it's super difficult to do it with many different things with a new team.
Yeah, a lot of interesting information there. One of the things is exactly right. So what is product market fit? It is building that first set of revenue. I also see from other clients that they have sometimes 5, 6, 7 different ICPs defined, and they are maybe 2, 3 salespeople. So they cannot really serve every group or every sector in an ideal way. So would you say then in the beginning, don't go too narrow in identifying your ICP? At least was this the case for you?
Well, I think when you really start in the beginning, I think it's very good to be super narrow because you need to bring your story. You go to events, you want to be on stage and try to win here and there something. And what I've learned from that is the more narrow you are, the more focused your story, the higher the chances you get your first success. So there, I think it's really good. But then afterwards, I don't think it's bad necessarily that you go a little bit more broad. Because you also learn a lot from it, and you will see okay, in that industry we can sell, but why in that industry maybe adoption goes slower versus another industry, and all those data are, I think, relevant after a few years or after 1 year to really look back at it and say then, okay, what can we now learn from this, and where potentially it's not only where we can sell the best, but where we see also the fastest adoption. Because the faster clients start with your product and are really happy with your product and advocate it, that will be really the fuel for your sales engine and your marketing engine, and that's where it all comes together, I think. So I would say focus, go a bit broader, and then narrow again, and probably afterwards you go again broader, and you go from one ICP to another.
The thing is, everything is not set in stone, right? And you see a lot start narrow your ICP down, yes. Then you have to have that flexibility exactly to maintain that momentum, because you want to maintain growth, hyper growth, especially when you want to scale. And you also decided to go with an outbound engine. So you have SDRs, you have full cycle AEs, you have territory or country directors. So why did you decide to go outbound rather than building potentially other engines?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that we only want to do one specific engine. For us, it was, from the beginning, in the industry where we are, and with the product we have, we didn't make our product from day one completely product led. So that automatically on a website you can get your free demo, you can start playing around, and then we step by step bring you in. That's not the way how we shaped our strategy from day one. Maybe at that point in time, even not consciously that it was like done. It was just the way how we build it, which was based on doing sales and going outbound. Now, when I look at most of our competitors and similar companies, they all have similar tactics, and it's over a time after your outbound strategy and you're getting a lot of customers and you can build those cases, you can build a lot of material, that you go probably way more into the inbound channels and get more in equilibrium, where now we're indeed, I would say, 80% really outbound focused. But it has grown in a way that maybe originally was not really thought through, like this is the way how we should do it. It came automatically, and then we have seen for certain countries, like if you go to Italy, it's good to have people on the ground. Not that they visit clients every day, we do nearly everything digitally, but to have local people that understand local behavior is something that can be a real asset in the business where we are.
And when you decided to scale, what you also so often see in other organizations, that they scale too fast, they overextend themselves. So it is a kind of a risk to go after multiple countries at the same time. How did you make sure that you did not overextend and that you maintain control over expenses versus revenue?
Yeah, well, it's always a very difficult exercise, I guess, because you have one aspect of you don't want to go too fast. On the other hand, the more touch points you have, the more sometimes a little bit risk you take, the faster you learn. And the point is, like, where do you make that equilibrium? If you do it really, with all doors open and throw the money at it, it can go super fast. And if you then have a zero cash balance, then you have a big problem, definitely in the times where we are right now. But if you don't do enough in going to different countries and see what's happening there, how competitors are active there, then you don't learn a lot. And that's, I think, something that we have seen, which works really fine for us. The only thing when I look back to it now is that maybe I would focus even more on English-speaking countries originally, because then you're maybe closer to following the conversations and you can quicker give feedback. But there, I also need to say that nowadays with technology, things are changing, because last week I followed with our Italian account executive a full call, and Teams is giving me subtitles during the call. So actually, I can just follow the call even though it's in Italian. But that was for me the only real difficult thing. But for the rest, I would say, like, you need to take certain actions to learn, and from there, see how you can change your practices and change the way how you have your playbook. There's maybe one more thing, is that there are, of course, if we go to Italy, we could say we start directly with 3 salespeople. That's not what we did. We built small teams where we say we have one person local on marketing side, we have one person on SDR, one account executive, and that's for us the team doing it. Some people say like, yeah, take directly 2-3 people, because then you see who survives, who's not good, and then you know it's not because of the person. But I believe that that can be dangerous in times when there is maybe too much money. It's fine, but otherwise I think it's much better to make sure you do good recruitment, good training, and with the persons where you believe in, make it work.
Yeah, and you say it right, finding the right people, the recruitment and the training, because I know that you don't just hire people and then throw them in the deep. What was for you defining and say, okay, now we have a structure, we have an infrastructure, this is at least good enough to start adding more people?
We did it actually with the last round. Now it was a previous round, and so it was a round in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, 21, where we said, okay, now we want to go more international, because we see that we have a lot of international customers. We see that those customers are happy, but most of the sales is still coming from myself, Jasper, and at that time one salesperson we had also in Belgium, which of course is not where you want to be. So yes, we have international clients, but we need to make sure we can show that we sell with a team and not only a few people. And then we did very fast. We said, okay, from that moment on, we said, now go to the Netherlands, go to Spain, go to Italy, and that was all in one go. It didn't. Not all people started together, because the challenge is, of course, finding good salespeople. But that was the idea, to do it as fast as possible. As I mentioned earlier, to learn as fast as possible of what's happening there.
And what is for you the minimum set of systems or processes that you need to start building an international team?
You could say, yeah, we invested from day one. I think not only on the sales side, but in our full organization, trying to make sure that we built it to be really scalable. So very early, we started with HubSpot as one example, making sure that everything is tracked, that we can build marketing sequences also from there. We have a lot of other tools that we use and that our reps are using, where we invested in. We have then also lately Salesloft, but I don't think it's necessarily you need to have a lot of tools. It's more like you need to know that what you do to a certain segment is working. We went too fast, but as I mentioned, we learned from it that we said we go very broad. So the easier you make it, and if it's only one segment, then of course tools are nice to support, but it's also for a sales much easier to do the sales job. So I would say have a few systems in place that help your sales to be as efficient as possible. But on the other hand, don't wait too long, because the sooner you start, the more you will learn, and then you can tweak it afterwards as well. And we often see that, okay, one person can prefer to X and another person prefers to Y. So maybe it's sometimes also not bad to have not everything in place from the get-go, and certain things come when you're doing it.
And hiring remotely or hiring in other countries is also a challenge. So how we make sure that, well, they're the right fit as well as ready to help building the company in the future. What are you looking for in people?
Yeah, I think first of all that's one of the most difficult things, and still today, when I look in our company on all the roles that we're looking for, finding good salespeople, definitely abroad, is a challenge, because you don't have, I would say, quality headhunters where you can rely on in each and every country. In some industries, with that headhunter, they do C-level people and they can be based in London, but with them you can work for the full Europe. But in sales, I didn't find it yet to say like, this is now the agency that if we look for salespeople, once they know us, if the person needs to come from Spain, Italy, Netherlands, doesn't matter, they always can do it. No. So we always work with headhunters. Because we don't believe that just placing it online will give us the right candidates. Because in sales, the good ones having a job are doing probably a good job. So you need to trigger them to go into a new adventure where they say, yeah, I want to do this again. So that's why we work with headhunters. First challenge was to find a good headhunter in each of those countries. But once we have that, what we're looking for is, mainly people, the drive, I think, is super important, because you can learn a lot to people about the product, etc. But if they don't have that passion and drive to learn, yeah, that makes it much more difficult. What we also have seen, but that's for many roles, but definitely in sales, is you can't have too many variables that are missing. So if a person has no um, knowledge about your industry, but has super knowledge in selling SaaS products with the same sales cycle, the same average deal size, etc., then it can work because you learn the person how your industry works. If he or she has the right drive, we're getting there. But if the person has no knowledge about your industry and also didn't work, for example, in SaaS to similar sales cycles and was only selling projects, then it's just too difficult because then there are too many variables in my eyes that you need to gonna train on. And let's face it, in most scale-ups or startups, yeah, there's time to train, but it's still not at a level where you have it in a corporate where you really can put people in big development programs, etc. So it needs to go fast. Another thing, the people need to be self-starters. So the ones that we see are really successful are the ones that are very autonomous and not only the drive, but they really take ownership. They will always be the first to say like, hey, how do I need to do this? You don't need to train them. They come to you to say like, I need this now because otherwise I can't do my job right. Not always easy to find that in a recruitment process, but if you can select on those, for me, that are some of the most important ones. And every salesperson that is successful with us is showing those traits, I would say, in their behavior.
Yeah, and so when you are growing, you invest a lot in, of course, the hiring the people, the training the people. Your unit economics are not always ideal. So when for you make the shift between scaling, investing versus increasing the footprint and growing the business, having better unit economics. So what is for you the benchmark, or what is for you the reason to switch that growth?
Yeah, I would say there is not one answer to it, because here the same thing. If you don't take the risk, and as a consequence, you need to go through a moment where, of course, your unit economics will not be great. And there are always exceptions. There are a few companies, I think, in the world who really went on a path where from day one they grow and it never stops, and that's fantastic. But with most companies, and also very successful companies, it didn't go like that. So you start, in our case, for example, unit economics were really good, through the roof, I would say fantastic. Then you start to invest, as you said, they go down, and then till where let you go? It's how long can you do that? I think there are a few things. Of course, you want to see, do we learn things from it? Do we change it? And do you see that that's going in the right direction? If you show that something was not working, but you take action and you really see that the results are changing, yeah, then probably you're on a good path. And then making it in mini milestones to make sure that you don't wait, because in sales it can take a time, but that at least in every small step of the process you can start seeing the difference and the change and measuring all those steps. And then the other thing will come more from, okay, looking at your cash position and where are you, and you can say, if you have enough cash at hand and you know your burn rate, you could say, okay, let's give it another 6 months to learn even more. But at a certain point in time, yeah, we want to switch it, because you don't want to go that far that your business is at danger. And that all depends, I think, on the situation of the company, where you are, what's your cash balance, etc. But for me, the most important thing, and that's also how we look at it right now, of course you have targets, of course you look at, we want to reach this, but for me it's much more those milestones in between that shows that, okay, we have now 3 countries where we're sales efficient, we have now 4 countries where we're sales efficient. Yeah, if we have 4 countries where we can do it, then what should stop us of doing it in 10 countries? If we have only 1 country, there is still doubt. And that's for us actually the most important thing, to measure all those little steps country per country, to make sure that we build as much evidence as possible in a short period of time that we can replicate this.
Okay. So you've been talking about, we really started growing from 2018 on. You had 2 funding rounds. Looking back, besides going maybe more after the English-speaking countries, Are there other things that you would have done differently?
It's always because we are still not that far away.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's difficult. Once you would say that's 10 years ago and I've seen the full
Yeah.
journey, then you can reflect like, oh, I would have done this differently. I think for us, there is still a lot to learn. For example, in the beginning, I believe that maybe instead, but that comes also a little bit to the English speaking, that instead of going very quickly in a lot of different countries, maybe we could have kept sales a bit closer to ourselves and to the HQ with multiple language skills as well, and test more from that setting rather than going to all the separate countries. That could be an approach, and not necessarily from a cost point of view, because there are also advantages to be in other countries because it's not that expensive than doing it in Belgium, but rather in making the transition as smooth as possible from founders-led sales into bringing it to the sales
Yeah.
team. And if your people are a bit further away, it makes it more complicated. And definitely at that time, as I said earlier, when we didn't have the technology to follow every call, and I'm not speaking every language, that made it, I think, the most challenging thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I see that changing because now, as I said, once you can listen into a call and it doesn't matter in which language you can follow, that makes it already much, much easier. Now, also with the technologies like you have in Salesloft, where every call is recorded, you get transcripts from it. Yeah, technology is moving so fast
Mm-hmm.
that probably what I was just saying, that maybe if I would do a new venture in 2 years from now, that I would still do the same because you have all the technology at hand to do it.
Exactly.
And other things is maybe in some countries, yeah, finding the balance, what I said earlier, between taking a bit more risk and going a bit faster to learn
Yeah.
more. And I think definitely in the early stages, we could have put maybe in a relative way more funds to sales and marketing to learn faster from it. Now, sometimes we waited a bit longer. Yeah, that are for me the most important things.
Yeah. Okay. And on the funding side, looking back now, I mean, it's still all very fresh, of course.
Yeah.
When you look at it now, did your funding come at the right time, or wanted you ideally wait a bit longer? So are you happy there?
No, I think for us on that side, I would not do many things differently. Maybe with one exception, but that needs to come with more senior entrepreneurship, etc. If you have done it before in a successful way, it's much easier, if we all know it, to get your first funds. In our case, that was not the point. So I would maybe in a first round do much more instead of need to do it in 2 or 3 rounds. But good, that's not something we were in a position to do that. But otherwise, I think that process went really good. We took always the momentum. We saw growth, and at the right moment, we went back in the market, even some earlier than what we expected because we had just fantastic ratios. So why not doing it? And if you now look back to it with everything that happened in the economy from a macroeconomic point of view, it was a great choice to do it that way because, yeah, there are now a lot of companies that would love to get money and will not be in the position to do it. And now at least we have it in the bank, and we have it in our own hands to see what we do and how fast we want to go based on what we see around us.
Yeah. Yeah, good. And maybe one last question. If you look at the collaboration, marketing, and sales, how crucial was this in coordinating this and scaling out your business successfully?
I think it's always very crucial, but that we still can do a much better job there. We're working on it as we speak right now. And we always, of course, had a close link because we're not such a big company. So people spoke with each other. And still, even in such a small company, you see that people are sometimes disconnected.
Yeah.
So just one of the initiatives we just did is to say, like, everybody in the marketing team, because we work also with local marketeers, they need to listen in to sales calls. They need to be even present in sales calls so that they can start listen to how those prospects also into some customer calls, how they speak about what do they see, what are their pain points, how is it really expressed in their language. And that's where there was for a long time a little bit of a mismatch. You make your website, you make your messaging, and still we're in the process of changing it from what you think that the people that buy your product think about it, rather than really listening to them from within the field and then translating that in the right key messages. And that's why for me, those two need to be really close to each other and really actively be present in each other's meeting, listen to everything that is said to make it as good as possible.
Cool. Thank you very much. Do you have one more tip, practical tip? You've given already a lot of them for companies that are just in that founder-led sales and they're looking to transition into hiring their first salespeople. What are things that will help them make them successful?
Yeah, from the most important thing still in the beginning, because we're still in the early stages, as you said, is at that time definitely focus. And if you have the runway to do it, keep the focus maybe long enough to make sure that you really have a lot of clients that do the same thing and that you see time after time it's working, adoption is good, they really love it. It will help you afterwards to do it, I think, faster. That said, one of the most important things for entrepreneurs, you need to do things, and you can overthink it as well. So I would say sometimes, like, don't be afraid. We spoke with so many advisors, we spoke with so many investors, with external consultants, doesn't matter. Everybody has always a view on it. In the end, you need to make a decision and you need to go with it. And the most important thing is learn fast, and that you make mistakes. Like I said earlier, I don't think there's one founder who has a track record where they didn't make mistakes. So you will make mistakes, but yeah, make the decisions, do it, reflect on it, measure a lot, make sure that you have the right tools to really measure your full process from the beginning till the end, and looking continuously how that is changing. And if you do that, yeah, then you can start making it. And that's for me the most important points, I would say, to do.
Brilliant. Great input. Thank you very much, Guy, for this great conversation. And I'm sure we all learned a lot from you today.
Super. Thank you very much, Cedric.
Have all the success with the Mobietrain and see you soon.